So then, we are back with the more understandings from the Renewed Covenant, from the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation is from the original documents of the Holy Hebrews, giving us directions for the end of this time, the closing of this age. These prophecies then are from the time of old, original from the prophets, and then we can understand what it means, the closing of the age, as the prophecies then shows us where we are at in a time of rebuilding. It's extremely important then to holding back those who are trying to come against rebuilding. It's very important. Though we are tempted sometimes of going above, we should be very wise in knowing how to stop. As we understand from the records of the past, these next 4 years are extremely important. The time of stabilization. As we understand, prior of this government, there was the government before that did not pay the dues. There were debts piling up so high and they were not being paid. It wasn't a situation regarding either a bad or a nice government. It had to do with the paying the dues. Then when this government had taken over, then there were piles and piles of debts that had to be taken care of. As we understand, this time, per the prophecies of Yahweh, the Creator, is a time of rebuilding. It's not time for new heroes. Because we then are endangering ourselves of a civil war. We are no longer playing with facts. We are then understanding the prophecies for what they are. It's not a time for a new American hero. The time of pondering, a time of reflection, a time of rebuilding. During the time of the Great War, Second World War, we were obligated to do the war because we had no choice. We were bombed. Pearl then was the point of ours in the Pacific, and we were bombed. We were forced into the war. We had no choice, even though the politicians, they did not want the war. They knew it would cost lives, materials for no reason, because of a stupid war. But unfortunately, power had gone up in the head of Hitler. And there was no way of halting it. We had to fight. And then Japan decided to invade China. It was a slaughter beyond imagination. At some point we had to step in and help the Chinese because they were being slaughtered by the thousands. And they were our protege for quite some time. And boy, they learned. And they became might. It's time then for us to make a deal with them in exchange of favor. Now we are being slaughtered by an economical system. We're not asking for handouts, asking them then to take the lead. The war over there in the Middle East is a junk. War of religion. It would be very wise for us to ask our friends, the Chinese, to take over the entire region. Do trade with them and make sure they do what they say. The priority of the priorities in every single of those jacking leaders over there. They said, we want development for our country. We are working towards then development. We want more for our people. We want to work for them. We want a life for our people. We want also to improve our economical system. We want more trade. This is what comes out from every mouth of those politicians. So we give them what they want. Nice price, delivery on time, and a great deal. And very solid diplomacy. In terms of Palestine, forget it. They are not going to get the land. The land of Israel is Israel's. But Yahweh has a plan for them. And it's not the time to reveal the plan. Then Israel can make then some compromise and let them work on the land with no ownership. In terms of the holy city, forget it. They won't get hold of the holy city. But they can work outside on the land. And be productive because the Chinese are coming through. So then we can do trade. And then the other countries, they lined up themselves. Either they are liars or they truly want to trade. Iran, 100% inflation. It's not fun living in inflation. Used to live myself from 30 to 50% a month. It was absolutely lunacy. You had the money a certain day, couple days later, the prices were above. And you couldn't make up for it. You know what it means, 100% inflation? You get the money, the day of payment, the next day it's another price. You can't ever catch up with it. And while they take on this huge task, then we come home and we rebuild. In order for us to rebuild in peace, we have to have a peaceful leader. Not a crazy leader. A peaceful leader, a person with proper understanding. And our president at the moment is very understanding. He fits perfectly with the entire plan. He's calm, serene. He knows how to rebuild. He knows what it takes. Because it has taken a long time to get our debts in line and paid for, mostly. So then, in a gradual understanding, we are coming back up. But it has to be slowly. Without threatening other countries. Because it's not our point to be threatening China. We owe them. And we are lending money from them. Why are we having these hard talks with China? Oh, we're going to impose policies upon them because of technology. Don't even say a word. They are helping us. We are in debt with them. We must be cautious how we do our diplomacy. We have nothing to give anymore. We're not during the time of the war. After the war, we had our industry. We don't have it anymore. We are empty. So then we make a deal with them. Please take over there at the Middle East and do trade with them. Make sure they do what they say they want to do. And then we let the Chinese take over because they have a very tough diplomacy. If they say they want, so be it. They make sure of it. And we remain as backup. If there is a problem, they get on the telephone. Come over. And we are watching very closely while we are rebuilding. So then Africa are also friends and brothers. Then we can begin to rebuild together. China does not require rebuilding. They are already built up very nicely. As we rebuild ourselves and we remind ourselves where we came from, then we maintain pace with Africa. We help them. So many wars over there, it's absolutely atrocious. Some of those places, no water, no heat, nothing to eat, drought, wars, militia everywhere, arms, bombs flying around. While we rebuild, we help Africa. We're going to teach them whatsoever is required, so then we build up ourselves together. If for this task, then we must have a very strong plan in the Middle East, and we know precisely what to do. We have our protege that we helped for so many years, and they are mighty at these days, so we can ask for the favor. And we remove ourselves from the South China Sea, let them deal with it while we are watching from afar. And then we get ourselves out of Australia. What are we doing there? We come home and rebuild. And then Africa then can copy from us. There is so much work to be done over there. It's amazing. Extremely amazing. A lot of work. And then Cuba, obviously, our president can lift the embargo from Cuba, so that more trade can be done with them. Our airliners could use another line over there, could they not? And our president is African descent, half of it. And then his influence upon Africa would be tremendous. And we have a very rich history of our past, our industry, what we did, trade. But then we are rebuilding. We can't compete during this time. As we were a fierce monster, so to speak, or a giant, but we are wounded. Have to have some time to heal. So then we ask China to be our then leader during this time. We become their protege, as we were to them. While they take care of the responsibilities over there in the Middle East. And we reserve, then if there is a problem, then they get on the telephone. But for this to be in line with the words of the Creator, then it has to have a stable person in charge. And our president at the moment is very stable. He's the perfect man for the job. Because as the expansion of the world's trade is taking place in this pace, then if we try to impose our deteriorated policies around the world, we are going to be rejected. It's obvious. We have nothing to give. We are only interfering at the moment. So truly the first step to get this reversal and get in a rebuilding mode is having then Israel make friendship with China and provide a highway reaching Israel. So then they have a focus to do trade. And then from there extends to the entire Middle East. And then tough policies in terms of diplomacy, staying away from war. Because the Chinese, they are very generous. We don't have the records, but sometimes when they visit those countries in development, they give huge amount of money and materials to start up trade. They didn't ask for a dime back. But then if you give your word, make sure you do it. You must be strong and wise. Don't let our old ways take over reason. Might must never go above reason in wisdom. The wisdom is saying very clearly it's a time of rebuilding. When you are depleted, you reserve. Going around the world spending what we don't have, it's not wise. Without giving any in return. We are only causing trouble. And we have great friends. They can take over at least for some time. You have an entire section of the world nearly abandoned. The islands of the Pacific are nearly abandoned. Wouldn't that be nice? Rebuilding our country, understand where we came from, and then we rebuild, gradual. Gradual. We've got petroleum, we've got natural gas, and our president already has a list of the objectives for the future. But we are in the rebuilding mode. He's removing the armies from the Middle East and then relieves our economy. Then he has hired independent company to do the numbers for us because the people in the government, they got used of enjoying each other's incompetence. He's a person that's humble. He said he made mistakes. He's human. These are signs of wisdom. But then when we get in our mode of trying to be mighty and high with nothing in the pocket, and then trying to influence our ways in the world where the world is replete with it and they don't want it anymore, it's not wise. The scriptures are indicating it's time of rebuilding. Our president is the only link in person with Africa. Africa is also in a bad shape. So we can build ourselves together. While we understand the peace in the Middle East is a simple highway from China to the Middle East. Brings peace, you can't believe it. Because each of the leaders were saying they want more trade, they want more grain, they want more fuel, they want more economy for their countries. Or are they lying, those bastards? Most of them are bastards. Scoundrels. So then we know what the problem is. Those leaders are the problems. But they say they want more economy. They want more development, more trade. So then it starts with Israel making friendship with China, building up a highway from China through the Middle East. And let's do trade. And no longer speaking of war. Because the great country of China never waged a war before. And they are very prosperous. But we, back home, we have our eyes open. If it gets rough and we get on the telephone, oh boy. But more than likely the telephone won't ring. Because we are vastly depleted. And then we help our other friends over there in Africa. They are in absolutely shambles also, as we are in shambles. But we are in the economy, and they are in both economy and country and geography, you name it. War, civil war. They sometimes don't have industry. They have to be taught how to do industry. And as we are friends then with our friends China, then we can open up the market down there also for Africa. Establishing ports, and then refurbishing ports, refurbishing the cities, but it has to be done then together. Because China would be very busy when they take on then the Middle East. Extremely busy, and they should not be bothered. Then we should use our old American ways as we then learn and relearn ourselves, then we build up together along with Africa. So then we, in the same pace, begins then a new transitional time. And then obviously Europe have to deal with their own. They got on this Euro junk and they got themselves in trouble. They have to deal with it. As we understand from the prophecies of Daniel, they should never be involved with this euro. So they should return to their own money. But then it's up to them to make a decision. But we back home, we rebuild. So the plan is set. It's absolutely set, clear and clean. As per the scripture, fits every prophecy of it. Time of rebuilding, time of gathering our strengths,